Dear darling Stevie. She needed to be cherished. She needed to be lapped in loving care. In the midst of so much love and such comfort, still to feel unsafe and be afraid. How one's heart goes out to you. I remember once sitting at the back of a cheerless school hall while Stevie pranced around the stage chanting her poems like an elderly Shirley Temple. It should have been embarrassing, but it wasn't. It was touching, truthful, and haunting. And the children were enthralled. She spoke to them directly, you see, from child to child, from heart to heart.
I thought you were in a hurry.
Coming, Stevie.
Don't forget the gin. I was supposed to do this broadcast for the BBC, and I told them about the leg, quite casually, you know well. They sent a car for me and a rug. All I needed was a shawl and a hot water bottle to complete the picture. Everything has its compensations, I suppose. Even growing old. Of course, I miss Aunt dreadfully. When you've lived with an old lady from an early age, you never cease to be a child. Now she's gone, and I find I am old myself. Some people thought I should move. Why don't you get a flat in London, they said, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to leave Avondale Road. Everyone is so kind to me here. I'm better off in Palmer's Green. And I got used to living alone. There is something wonderfully dreamy about being in a house all by yourself. Oh, you can wander about, sleep in a different room every night if you want to. And then if I feel tired, I just stay in bed. I rather enjoy it. I rather enjoy feeling very tired. Some days are long and thin and there's nothing in them, but they speed past just the same. And suddenly you realize how short it all is, life. And at the end, there is death with the pleasure of certainty. I read a lot these days. I read more than ever. Gibbon especially. Decline and Fall is my favorite. I never tire of it. I like Agatha Christie too. I love reading her in French. She is so wonderfully funny. Je suis un détective. Je m'appelle Hercule Poirot. I think she's a genius. Préparez-vous à recevoir un choc. Votre patron, Mr. Ratchet, est mort. Her murders are so polite. Oddly enough, life has suddenly become rather exciting. Ooh, I'm quite a celebrity these days. I've been photographed for the newspapers. I've been interviewed for the television. I've made gramophone records. I've lectured. I've even had my portrait painted. Mind you, it didn't look much like me. Well, I didn't think so. The colouring was lovely, but the lower half of the face seemed to belong to someone else, to Disraeli, I think. Do take Muriel out. She is looking so glum. Do take Muriel out. All her friends are gone. All her friends are gone, and she is alone, and she looks for them where they have never been, and her peace is flown. Do take Muriel out, although your name is Death, she will not complain. when you dance her over the blasted heath. The most exciting thing of all was getting the Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry. This was a tremendous honour, and I was tremendously pleased about it, and very flattered, too. It used to be sent by post, I believe, but Cecil changed all that when he became Poet Laureate, and quite right, too. Just imagine getting a gold medal from the Queen among all those gas bills and postcards from Felixstowe. Anything in the post today, dear, just a medal from the Queen. Ugh. Anyway, they told me to get to Buckingham Palace at such and such a time, and of course I was terrified of being late. I'm always late for everything. I had a fortifying drink at the Ritz, and then walked through the rain to the palace and got there dreadfully early. Well, they were still in the middle of changing the guard, so what to do? The only thing I could think of was to go next door to the Queen's Gallery. I bought a lot of postcards, Da Vinci drawings, which I then had to cram into my handbag. Well, it's not very big, as you can see. So there I was, with a handbag crammed full of postcards, standing in the rain outside Buckingham Palace. I went up to one of the policemen and said, I am supposed to be in there, you know. I have an appointment with Her Majesty to get this medal. To my surprise, he knew all about it. So in I went, into the palace. I was met by a rather decorative young man in naval uniform, and he took me to this outer room. Oh, what is it called? Oh, anyway, it's a huge room. And there was this lady in waiting, a most agreeable girl. We had a very giggly time. She asked me to do one of my poems, so I hissed a short one under my breath. Well, you know, the one about the poor debutante all alone at the grand ball. It seemed appropriate, I thought. I cannot imagine anything nicer than to be struck by lightning and killed suddenly crossing a field, as if somebody cared. Nobody cares whether I am alive or dead. Oh, yes, we had a very jolly time. I loved that part of it. And then the one before me came out, a staggering-looking woman, and I thought, oh, heavens, I'm not properly dressed for this. I bought this hat at a jumble sale, you see, only 5 shillings, a tremendous bargain, but perhaps a bit of a mistake. Oh, anyway, the young naval man takes you to the door, and there, far, far away, the room's as big as Trafalgar Square, standing against the mantelpiece is this charming figure, the Queen. I'd never seen royalty close to before. Well, only once before. I saw the Queen Mother at a book prints exhibition. I was standing on the first floor landing and she walked below me. I could have poured sherry onto her hat. Well, there she was. There was the Queen. You curtsy at the door and then make your way across the room, and then she comes forward and smiles. She's got a very gracious smile, and hands you the medal. As she gave it to me, she said, I don't know what you'll do with it. So I looked at it and I said, well, I could always have a hook put on it and wear it round my neck. I don't know whether it's real, she said. Oh, I said. Oh, I'm sure it is. Then she motioned me, I think that is the correct expression, she motioned me to sit down. There was a table between us, and they told me outside not to worry about when to come out because she would ring a bell under the table. Well, the poor darling would keep asking me questions about poetry, and I got the impression it wasn't exactly her favorite subject. How do you think of a poem, she said. Well, I said, it just sort of comes to you, often when you least expect it. Right in the middle of hoovering, you know, you suddenly think of a poem. She made me feel very like a schoolgirl again, being interviewed by a rather cordial headmistress. After a bit, I got nervous and said, I don't know why. I seem to have written a lot about murder lately. Oh, this was obviously the wrong thing to have said, because the royal smile got rather fixed. When it's all over, you walk out backwards, Curtsy at the door, and then the young naval man gets a taxi for you. We went to the Epicure afterwards for a celebration lunch. Cecil Day Lewis, Eric Walter White from the Arts Council, and Nora Smallwood, my fire-watching chum from Chatto's. Dear Eric ordered oysters, which was a great mistake. They were ages in coming. I had to ask the waiter for some bread and jam to stave off the pangs. And then back home to Avondale Road.